Wherever you're watching, welcome to Talking Business. Now, when this year's crop of university leavers think back to when they started their degrees, they couldn't have dreamt of some of the changes that would impact the jobs market they'd graduate into. In less than the time of a 3-year college course, we've seen the launch of ChatGPT, predictions from the investment bank Goldman Sachs that AI would replace 300 million full-time jobs. And just in the last few weeks, Goldman's revealed new research that young tech workers are losing out to machines more quickly than anyone else. It's a trend they've also noticed at the world's biggest professional network, LinkedIn.
In the last year, hiring rates for entry-level work by new grads has slowed by over 20%. And that's the case for both the US and the UK. There is uncertainty around trade policy and tariffs, but there are other things that are also making them uncertain. The interest rate environment is changing. The other factor that I think is really important is just what does AI mean for the labor force? So imagine, if you will, that suddenly companies are looking at this potential productivity tool and wondering exactly how much they can rely on it to do simple tasks, maybe even more complex tasks. And they're figuring it out.
Another shift that some have noticed is the drop-off in job adverts that require an expensive college degree. Last year, on the job site Indeed, a majority of new roles didn't require any formal education qualifications at all. The number of jobs that specified candidates needed a degree fell by 3%. And that fall came in more than 8 out of 10 occupations.
As both an economist and a mom about to send her own child off to college, it's fair to say that the advantages to college are still there. You still see that people who go to college over the lifetime of their career typically earn more. But increasingly, there is a lot to offer if kids take the route of not going to college. So there's a huge demand that we see actually globally now for people who have what we call trades experience. So whether you're an electrician, a welder, a plumber, a machine tooler, there's huge demand for skilled labor in that set, which doesn't necessarily require a college degree.
So what does LinkedIn's data suggest graduates should do?
If I were to give advice right now to someone who's graduating into this economy, which is laden with uncertainty, but also has a lot of potential to be really exciting and transformative, I would say don't get too attached to any particular career outcome or industry. I would encourage people to feel much more flexible about acquiring skills and experiences. One of the most interesting trends that we see in our data is the really rapid rise of people starting their own business. We've seen a 60% increase in people starting their own business in the last year, and a 3-fold increase overall in the last 5 years.
My next guests are dealing with this in the real world. Oliver Dalabani is a 22-year-old from Miami. Since graduating in May, he's sent out more than 200 job applications. Now he's teamed up with a friend to launch his own business. Our other guest, Simon Squibb, started his own business when he was just 15 years old. He was also homeless at the time. He later sold that business to PwC before starting and investing in many other firms and growing a social media following of millions. He joins me now on the go to his next meeting. Welcome to you both to Talking Business. Oliver, Simon, good to have you both on the programme. And Oliver, let me start with you. It's been a pretty tough year for you. I described some of it there in the introduction. Just talk to me about the reality of the jobs market as you found it this year.
I've been applying to hundreds and hundreds of jobs, reaching out to friends and family, using every connection that I can and using every creative way of reaching to these recruiters at these companies. And I rarely hear back. Sometimes I feel like maybe it's just me, maybe it's something I'm doing, but I speak to friends from my school, from other schools, and they have the same issue, and their friends, they tell me, have the exact same issue.
Simon, this is a familiar tale, and it's one that's increasing as the number of graduates entering that job market find that the jobs they wanted don't exist. I mean, you talk to loads of young people about this, don't you?
I've been talking about this problem for years, and I've said to people many times over in the last 3 years, don't wait for someone to give you a job, create one for yourself. The universities have always pitched this promise that go to university, you get a job, and it's not true. It hasn't been for a long time. And of course, with the rise of AI, not only does it mean there's even less jobs, it also means it's a very exciting time to start a business. It's really easy, easier than ever to start a business.
So Oliver, tell me about your business. What are you doing? How are you making it work? And I suppose, are you glad you did it this way?
Honestly, yeah, I'm very glad I did it this way. So basically, a little bit about our brand. It's a natural skincare brand called Ancient Standard. It's based on the idea that the ingredients we use now and the kind of the way we take care of our skin now, we've deviated so far from how people for the past, thousands of years have taken care of their own skin. And so we kind of want to bring that idea back into today's world, using all natural ingredients, all natural oils, and kind of just bringing that idea and that knowledge back to today's world.
And in terms of how you got this business off the ground, talk to me about the journey.
A lot of it we did our own, like the product packaging, the formula, the consistency of what we wanted. So I'd say a lot of it is just getting step by step. I think for a lot of people, they see the big picture and it kind of scares them a little bit, or maybe it just seems unattainable. But I think if you think about what the next step would be, which is how we kind of approached building the brand, thinking about what I can do tomorrow, or one more thing I could add for the brand, or to get started on building the brand. I think if you think step by step, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more attainable to build a business that way. And that's what we've been doing in my experience, me and my partner. And it's real. We have it now. It's a physical thing.
Yeah, it exists. It's up and running. And Simon, that's sort of the problem, isn't it? People maybe fear too many steps ahead. Rather than taking that first step, that little step, whatever it is, they worry about the end goal before they've even got started, don't they?
Well, I think, yeah, the key to starting a business is, I think, not wanting to start a business, but needing to start a business. And so a lot of people, one of the problems they have is they have actually too many options. That's definitely one of the problems. But the other problem is they don't see it as like one step at a time. So get one customer who will pay you. Just have proof of concept. And it's much easier than you think to get that. If you pitch an idea to someone, they can say yes to being your client. And that's what you need. You just need one client most of the time. And if you do that, you almost get a sense of belief, a realization that your idea can come to life. But you have to take risk in life. I mean, otherwise, if you don't take risk, you don't get luck. And without luck, you won't succeed. And so you need a bit of bad luck sometimes where you can't get the job, because then your bad luck will lead to good luck, because you'll have to start something on your own. And then you have to ask someone to be your customer to get the good luck that they say yes. And so it's really just a process. And I think a lot of people in the world today are thinking it's hard to start a business, and they think it's easier to get a job. But the reality is today it's the opposite. When you work for yourself, it's hard at the beginning, but gets easier over time. And it's only hard because you're learning things. Whereas when you're working for someone else, it's easier at the beginning, but gets harder over time as your bosses change, as the market changes. People could just fire you at any second. I think this is entrepreneurship's time, and it's a time for people to create their own jobs.
The word risk is really important there, because maybe working for someone else, what you're doing is outsourcing the risk that it might all be a failure, the risk that there might be a lot of cost, the risk that you may not get any customers.
But you're not really outsourcing the risk. You're basically taking the choice out of your hands and giving it to your boss or to his boss's boss. To work for someone else, if you think working for yourself is more risky than working for yourself, than working for someone else, then you're deluding yourself in this day and age. Someone today is employing AI into their company, and they're going to cut thousands of workers today. And that could be you. So you don't have control. And you could spend 5-10 years working at a company, and because you haven't got any equity in the brand that you're working on, you have no safety net.
Oliver, Simon's talking about sort of belief, but also just that this is what we should consider, going it alone being the least risky option. Is that how you saw it when you were starting the business this year?
I did have that realization the other day, actually, that I think a lot of people enjoy, working for other companies or working for someone else because they don't necessarily have to feel that risk or feel If something were to go wrong, it's not necessarily on them always. And so I realized that a lot of people pick up jobs for that feeling of having to have any kind of risk off their shoulders. And I do agree with what Simon's saying. It does feel a little bit risky, but
Right.
my mindset with this whole thing was that I'm okay if this thing fails as long as I know I took it as far as I could, because then I would have, no doubt in myself. And I guess that's just another explanation for belief.
Simon, what advice would you have for Oliver right now? Setting up his own firm this year, how does he see this through? How do you stay the course?
I think the way he's doing it is quite right. He basically is building something he enjoys. I think the word fun is not said enough in business. You've got to enjoy it. I believe a purpose matters in this day and age. If I look at young people today, a lot of people say young people are lazy. That's not true. Young people today, what I've noticed is they want a purpose. They want a reason to do the business beyond just making money. They want to make money, but they want to fix the world's problems. So I think having a purpose that solves a problem for people, which again, I think, that to me is what keeps me going. I want to fix the education system. I want to make sure that people know what they're capable of. Opportunity is not evenly distributed, but talent is. And I want to change it so that opportunity is equally distributed. And that motivates me and that motivates my team.
Looking back, Oliver, would you pursue the same route again? And by that, I mean sort of the college education and then seeking a graduate job. We said at the start of this that fewer and fewer job ads now are requiring sort of formal educational qualifications. They're looking at life experience. Would you do it again, and the cost that goes with college? Do you think that was worth it?
There were some things that I gained from college that were priceless, like my friends or the professors, that I got to meet and that got to help me through college. But I think the price that I paid for what I had learned, I don't think I had to pay. I think a lot of this information now is available and it's very organized. And there's, a lot of these corporations put out classes, or they create, 10-week, 20-week classes that you can learn a lot of the technical skills. I think, I'll credit college that it definitely gave me a way of thinking. But then again, I don't think I needed to pay that much to have that way of thought. I think that would have also come naturally through life experience or through, starting my own business.
We sometimes have something called survival bias. Right. So when people go to university and then they describe the experience of university, it's like anything. You will always get something from doing something, but it doesn't mean it's worth. I mean, in England, for example, people are getting in $50,000-$60,000 worth of debt. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. We need to make sure this gets through to people, because the machine that is a business, that is university, is selling that you can get a job when you come out the other end, which we know now is not true. And then they also sell this friend network as if somehow the network would never be achieved if you didn't go to university. And it's not true. I started a business at 15 years old. I met people. I made a network through building businesses, other entrepreneurs, clients, brands. I have built a network by living life.
But all of this is about confidence and having a bit of cash to put on the line, isn't it? The confidence that you've got a great idea and then the money to back it up. We all need that, don't we, to start a business?
You do not need money to start a business. What you need is financial literacy. This whole thing about needing money to start a business is a narrative that is untrue, and it's stopping a lot of people following their purpose. It's stopping a lot of people from even dreaming. They don't even turn on the dream mechanism. The idea in their head doesn't even come alive because they think they need money. You don't need money to start a business. I was 15 years old when I started a business, and I had no money and I was homeless. It's very simple. You just need to understand how money works. For example, if you go to a client and you say, I'd like to offer you a service, and then they say yes to that service, you can ask them for a 50% deposit. It's very normal in business, a 50% deposit. And then that 50% deposit, if you do it right, should cover all your costs. And then when you deliver the service, and this is what I did, when I finally delivered what I promised, I got the final 50%, and that was my profit. So this whole idea you need money to start a business is just crazy. It's not true. You can work for a company for 10 years. You can put your heart and soul into that business. And if you don't own equity in that company, they can lay you off today. That's it. All that 10 years of work to build that company up, you don't own it. You don't own equity in it. You're out. And to me, that's the risk. You waste years of your life building something you don't own. And if you work for yourself, yes, there are cases where businesses fail. I've had many businesses that have failed. In fact, I would argue if my businesses hadn't failed, I wouldn't be successful today. But every single time I built a business, I own equity in that company. The time I put into that brand, I own it. So no one can get rid of me, or more importantly, my ownership over that equity. And this is the important thing people need to learn within financial literacy. If you own equity somewhere, higher chance long-term of being successful. If you don't own equity, higher chance you can be cut off at any minute with nothing in return for years of hard work.
And Oliver, a final thought from you. Look, you might find yourself in a position like Simon to be able to start advising people on how to do it, what you've learned. What would you say to someone who's maybe looking for a job right now with a big organisation in your position as you were earlier this year? What's your advice?
I would say find something that you find interest in or passion in, and see how far you can take that. See if you can turn that into a side thing at least, and continue to apply to the jobs if that's what you feel. But maybe you realize that's something you want to take on more. Is your side thing, or if you want to just move into working for another corporation.
Oliver, best of luck with it. We will follow your journey closely. Really good to talk to you. And Simon, thank you for being with us. We'll let you get off to your meeting, but enjoy to talk to you. Thank you, Oliver and Simon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.